Today on The Rundown, we're starting with the latest in tech news and an apology from me, breaking down the biggest stories and what they mean for you. And then as we enter a season focused on wellness and reflection, we're going to dive into our main topic, technology and health. We'll explore how not only how tech is transforming healthcare through wearables, AI, and digital medicine, but also how our constant use of technology affects our physical and mental well-being. From screen time to social media, we're looking at the full picture of how tech shapes our health. Join us for our expert insights and timely analysis. Let's dive in. Welcome to The Rundown. Hey, everybody. Welcome. And to our esteemed panel as well. It's so good to see all of you. Hey, Tamara.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. Did you get any time off?
I've had a little bit of kind of time off. Today I was in, I said like no-go mode.
No go.
So I have my little tea on the off camera so that I can stay hydrated, but I'm doing good.
Good. It's good to have you here. Lois, how are you?
I'm doing well, and it's cold.
It's cold. Okay.
Well, for me, it's cold. For you Canadians, it's not cold, but I know. Anyway, that's going to be probably the thing I say all winter long because I really love summers
You
in
love
Davis.
the warmth. I hear that. That's why we moved down to Florida. Dave, she has no right to complain about the cold.
No, I get to. It's in my constitution. They say Canadians all are allowed to complain about the cold, no matter how warm it is. And I, in the summertime, I ask people, what was the coldest day last year? And they don't know because it was February 17th. And the warmest day last year, what was that? Oh, it was July 16th. So I kind of keep it in my head every year as to which end of the spectrum we were at. But today it's about zero.
Well, there you go.
It's actually a warm day.
That's
My rink is melting outside, so that's why
that's a win. Fantastic. Paul, how is it down by you? Are you in Texas now?
No, actually, I'm on vacation in Hot Springs right now. I'm going to head back to Texas in a few days, but it's raining and raining and raining some more. Yesterday, I went to a Christmas party with real people.
Oh, well, that's very nice. Fantastic.
Yeah, it was very nice.
Because we don't count. All right.
You're real people too, but they were,
I
right
owe
there.
the world an apology and a mea culpa. I broke ChatGPT.
What?
Yeah.
How?
So
I suspected it was you.
it was me. So for those of you who don't know, there has been a huge outage for almost 8 hours now. Actually more than, just under 8 hours now of ChatGPT and OpenAI and Sora and all their APIs and everything. And the truth of the matter is that I spent the entire morning plugging away at building a custom GPT, and because I don't know what I was doing, I think I broke it. So it's almost back, but I wanted to apologize. That is without a doubt the biggest news story that is happening today. I mean, this was for anyone who relies on these. I was actually talking to a friend of mine who has his own AI company, but he uses the OpenAI APIs. And when you have other companies relying on you and your uptime and you go down for 8 hours, I mean, it's huge. Yeah. It's just huge.
David, how could you break it? I mean, I understand they went down and everybody else, had problems, but you couldn't have affected their system, could you?
You think, Lois? No, of course I didn't break it. I was kidding.
Well, you can't say that.
Okay, I'm
because
sorry.
they'll believe you because
he's just going to take responsibility because nobody else will.
That's
it's
right.
some intern
That's exactly
that they're going to blame for doing this. It's always the intern that was fooling around, and they ruin everything for everybody. So we'll blame the intern, but he's taking responsibility.
The good news, David, is that even if you broke that part, the other part that Google LLM still works fine.
Yeah, but I have a bone to pick with Google.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So and not the Google LM, but I have a bone to pick with Google Gemini. So last night, I have I have a workflow that I've been imagining in my mind using Google Forms and Google Sheets and some sort of AI model. So I'm not going to explain the whole thing. But because I'm using Google Forms and Google Sheets, last night I had this thought, why am I using OpenAI? Why don't I use Gemini, which is Google's own AI, and it's built right in. So the first part of this morning, I was banging away on Gemini, trying to get that to work. Gemini can't even see its own docs I almost... it is entirely possible that I don't know what I'm doing and I did it all wrong. But the idea that Google's own AI can't interface with Google's own products, but ChatGPT can, made me a little crazy. So that's why I broke ChatGPT. But that is not what we're talking about today. I just wanted to kind of put that out there because I've been feeling guilty about it all day. We actually do have some news. And this first one, I don't know if any of you heard about this, but have you heard of Amazon Haul?
Not until you told me, but I went on, so I have some thoughts.
This happened very, very quietly, sort of in the background. Amazon didn't really tell anyone, and you can't actually see it from the desktop experience. It's only available on mobile. And basically this is Amazon's competition to Temu, I don't know how to pronounce it. Temu, to TikTok Shop, to all those different things. And so everything on Amazon Haul is under $20. It will take you 2 weeks to get it because you don't get prime shipping and things like that. So it's 1 to 2 weeks shipping time. You have to pay for shipping if it's under $3. No, I'm sorry. To pay for shipping if it's under, I think, $25 maybe. Under $3, you can't return it. There's no returning. So it's a completely different beast than Amazon is. I'll be honest with you. I don't get the idea of buying crap just doesn't appeal to me. And to me, anything under $3 is going to be crap. So unless you can convince me otherwise, I don't quite get this.
Not everything that's inexpensive is cheap. There's a difference. And so if they are selling stuff that is functional, even though it's inexpensive, or they're putting it on sale or whatever, that doesn't mean that it's bad, it's cheap or anything like that. So you can get some good stuff that's inexpensive.
We have Amazon Haul here in Hot Springs. What they do is they haul all their returns to this place, and they have all these tables, and they dump it out on these tables. And then at 9 in the morning, they open the doors, and people madly rush in and start rummaging through all the Amazon returns. They start out with $15, the next day is $7, and they work their way down to $1. It's
what's
it's
amazing.
Hilarious.
What's amazing about
melee.
returns, Paul, is how many of those returns end up in landfills. It's really quite astonishing.
Yeah, that's sad that they end
just
up in
cheaper.
landfills.
It's cheaper for Amazon to just throw it away than to, I guess, restock or whatever. And I can only imagine this stuff. Actually, I take that back. I heard a report about this and Amazon thinks or said that there will be fewer returns on Amazon Haul because there isn't as much money at stake for the purchaser.
And you're not allowed
that's probably
to return
true.
some things. So
and the little things you're not able to return at all. Sure. Sorry.
It's kind of like going to the 99-cent store, right? Like that's when I went on, I was like, oh, I actually genuinely love Amazon as much as like the philosophical part of me doesn't want to love it. I use it so much. It's ridiculous. It's my primary form of shopping. But I went to Amazon Haul and I was like, it is like going into the 99-cent store. It's not even like going into Home Goods. It is literally like it's just junk. You have to go through it. I did do some searches for things that I would look for anyway. So you could get like adapters and things like that, technologically speaking. So like smaller things you can pick up there. I don't know why you would pick them up there because they're the same price as Amazon. So if you were looking for a certain adapter of any kind, or you would just go to Amazon, and there they are for under $20.
And by the way, the reason, so what you just said is really interesting because a lot of the items that are in Amazon Haul are also in Amazon for a much higher price. And the reason they cost more in Amazon is because what Amazon does is they buy those things from China. They bring them over and then they store them here. And it's that storage cost that raises the price. The reason you're getting 1 or 2 week shipping with Haul is because Amazon isn't bringing it over. When you order it, you're getting it directly from China. And so it saves sort of the middle person, if you will, and all the storage and things like that. They also finagled this way to be able to buy, because everything is so cheap, they're able to bypass the customs taxes and fees or something. It's just fascinating. The whole thing is fascinating. I don't really get it, again, because like you, I think the dollar store, if you go into the dollar store, every once in a while you'll find you'll find a gem, but 99% of the time you don't.
The problem is that you buy all the things that you don't need that are not gems. And that's what's going to happen when you go to Amazon Haul. Because I was going through and I'm like, I could totally see wasting money here on absolutely nothing.
I will tell you.
So I was like, closed it out and moved away.
Go to the dollar store, you can get food.
That's
Absolutely.
true.
That is one of the best deals of all time.
You're right.
Is go in there and you get a can of tuna that is $3 in the store next door, and it's $1.
That's absolutely true.
So for people who need food and don't have a lot of money, this is a good deal.
No, absolutely.
Now, I don't know if the same is going to be true on the Amazon Haul because I haven't looked at it. It looks like there's some kitchen supplies in there that might be kind of cool and stuff like that, but I haven't checked it out because, well, I don't shop at the dollar store very much.
Yeah. I will tell you that my wife needed to return something, and so we went to the mall the other day.
I'm so sorry.
Ever make me go back there. God, it felt like an eternity in hell. It being in a mall. I just there's no redeeming value to me of having to. I like you, Tamara. I'm not at all ashamed of my adoration for Amazon and all things online shopping. Speaking of absolutely nothing, I have no segue here, but Apple is making a move for remember what it was originally called? Anyone know what Ring was originally called? Anyone remember? The Doorbot.
What was?
The Doorbot.
Doorbot.
Right? This was the original, when it was on Shark Tank. It was the Doorbot. No one invested. No one gave the Doorbot guy the money that he was. I think it was asked for $750,000 for 10% or something like that. No one did it, and then he sold to who? To Amazon? Is that who owns Nest? No, this is Google Nest. Sorry. He sold Ring. Sorry, I got it backwards. He sold the Ring doorbell to Amazon. This is the Google Nest. Apparently,
So are you saying that this is a doorbell? I don't know what a Google Nest is.
This is a doorbell. So I have one of these in my office, actually. So what this is the round button on the bottom there, that's the doorbell. You press that, and the black thing at the top is a camera. And so you ring the doorbell, and then you can, if you want to, you can see on your phone who's at the door. What I use it for security in my office. So I can it will record, who has come to the door, and it'll delete and record over after a certain amount of time. I can see
Can you
who's
talk
been there.
to people
No.
with this?
Yes.
You can talk to people with the Ring doorbell.
Yes, I know, but he's talking about this
The
Nest.
Nest. Can you talk with the Nest, Paul? I don't know.
I don't know. I have Rings.
I
at
think
all
you
my
can.
places.
I think you can. I don't use that functionality, but I think you can. But here's the story. The story is that Apple is getting into the game. So I think it was last week. So it's sort of an update. We're talking about Apple getting into the home automation game with that new tablet thing. Well, the rumor is that they're also, they're probably working on a whole suite of things, but they're also working on a doorbell. They're maybe already working on cameras. to go around your house. I think this is a really interesting way for Apple to go, mostly because all the others who've done it, it may work beautifully. One
Device at a time.
Thank you. Device at a time, but there is no unified, cohesive community of devices for your home. None of them work.
This is an echo. This is an echo of the iPhone, because there were so many people making phones, so many people providing bad service, phones that were no good, phones that worked for a while and then didn't, took terrible pictures, disincentivized you from going on the web because they were so bad at it. And they solved all those problems all at once. And they've been waiting in the wings, I think. And it's true that they'll come in and say, well, we were late to the party, but we're taking over now.
Well, that's what
my feeling.
They did the same thing with iPod. They did the same thing with there were tablets before iPad came out, but iPad came out.
I was teaching tablets before, before there was an iPad, and I just went, this is so much better.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
did they say when they were going to be introducing this new thing?
So
2026 and 2027.
yeah, so this is all
Talk
coming.
about it later.
We'll talk about it later. This is all coming from
We'll talk about it when it gets here.
right. This
It's
is all coming
vaporware
from
and
Mark
pellets.
Gurman,
Yeah.
in Bloomberg. Which, by the way, I just started subscribing to that to Gurman's stuff on Bloomberg. It's if you're interested in this world, not just Apple, but kind of everything.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's really worth it. He does just really good job.
I think they're going to have a tough time competing with Wise, out of Washington, because they have the whole ecosystem, and basically it works, and their prices keep dropping. They had like a sale on one of their cameras for like $10, and it's amazing that these really cheap cameras last so long. And they've got a doorbell, they've got a thermostat, they've got lights. The light up above my head is a Wise light.
Paul,
I
is
can
that
change
this
colors
stuff?
and everything.
Wise Home Solutions?
No, it's WYZE. WYZE.
Oh.
That's not it at all. But they have the whole ecosystem. They had a little in the beginning because each device you had to have a subscription for it. And then they came out with a plan where you pay like $100 a year and it covers everything, all your cameras and everything.
But I have some Wise things like bulbs and things like that. And I have to say, I have not gone, I've only been mildly interested in automating my home, partly because I always felt like it was like there was a security issue. I just don't know why, but I was like, I'm not sure. The Apple one intrigues someone like me because the way I became an Apple ecosystem person is that I was on an Android phone. I bought an iPad in 2009. And as a teacher at that time, I had to buy every app twice. And sharing is caring. And I ended up getting an iPhone. And then slowly over the time, I switched over. And so even though I have a few devices that are automating. If Apple had something, it fits my ecosystem, I would 100% toss the other stuff and build into that. I also just feel like it's a different security when Apple, especially if Apple owns the devices too, because that to me would make me feel more comfortable as a consumer who's a little squeamish about putting a device that listens to me in my house.
I would be surprised if Apple actually builds all these little tiny.
They don't build any of them, but they have them built for them.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of catching up to do, and Apple generally is not a cross-platform company.
You're right.
So
that's
it's gonna
another.
work on
You're
iPhones.
absolutely right.
It's not going to work on Androids, probably.
Which is that's a really important point, Paul, because that's going to, not in America but globally, that's going to leave out 70% of the world from using their devices.
But there are lots of options. So, I mean, if you're someplace else and you don't want to use Apple, there's other options.
Absolutely. Okay,
So
listen.
let's talk about nature.
We need to have an intervention here because Dave, you're looking awfully depressed up there in Canada.
Uh-oh.
Is this what depressed looks
Do you
like?
need to boost your mood?
That's his camera.
Canadians
It's just
get
a little
depressed.
gray.
Do you need to boost your mood?
It's a little unfair Yeah, it's a little unfair actually because I live in this semi-rural environment. I'm surrounded by more parkland and trees and ravines and wildlife than you guys would. You'd be frightened of some of what I get to see every day. And my walks in the woods and through the paths are peopled with all kinds of folks, families and people on bikes and people with motorized bikes, and all the rest. And getting out and being in nature is a normal thing for me. And maybe it's part of my sunny disposition where I like winter more than summer. So I like winter and I get along with it very well. I know how to dress for it. I've worked outside in winter. There are jobs that you can still do at 25 below. And it really doesn't shut down the city or anything. So people here recreate outside quite a bit because we have the space to do it and because, we have the variance in the weather. However, there are lots of people with SAD, and they come up and they have to kind of bivouac all winter. Now, the time of year worst for them is from January to April, apparently, because that's the dirty snow area. Like the snow is real clean until about January, and then the dust settles on and the cars give their contribution and it starts to go brown. And then they just get depressed. And I have a friend actually in another town here that is suffering from that. And I'm encouraging her to go and sign up for this research project. They only need a few hundred people. And there's also a test they take about how they're feeling on a regular basis. There's observations that they have to report, things that they noticed and stuff in their environment where they saw a change. It was frost. We had some frost the other day and all the trees were white. It was just, snowball-like. And then there's other changes like tracks for chasing coyotes and that sort of stuff. So if people do stare at the environment and receive the vibrations, they feel better about it. And I've known this since, I don't know, when I was 20, I think. I read a thing about how being in nature is going to calm you down or give you a perspective and also center you. And this is why a lot of people like to meditate in a glen or something like that, because all of it's at a distance and there's just you and nature. So these guys are doing research and they're going to come back with some tips on how to improve your mood. And it should take only about a year or so before they issue it. And I have to give a full exposure thing because my wife was actually an instructor and professor at that university in that psych department and has retired just, the onset of COVID, she retired in that December before it. So we've been together ever since. They're retired together. But that institution did the announcement and she knows that professor really well and she's a lovely person. So we're looking forward to maybe, them asking us to sign up for it too.
That sounds wonderful.
So David showed the article, but we haven't really said what it is. And the presumption is that if people pay attention to nature, they will feel better, physically, emotionally, mentally. Right. And so that's the assumption that this study is testing.
Oh, yes. And it's actually a proven fact that people have SAD when the angle of the sun is low, they come up with seasonal affective disorder, and they have people who commit suicide because they just can't get out of the mood. So
we used to call it the winter blues, and I grew up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, just below.
You know how that goes, yeah.
And
where the real snow is.
I actually developed SADS a few years ago, many years ago. I had a lung infection. It didn't clear up before the winter time. And then when things got gloomy, I just got real depressed. But in addition to going outside and looking at nature, there's a couple other things I want to encourage people to do. One is take lights and shine them on your ceiling. So it looks like it's a bright sky up there. And that really helps. And the other thing is make sure you eat enough protein. It's another thing that helps.
So let's
back to the nature thing. There is a gentleman who runs a foundation, and his entire, the stuff he's focused on these days is getting nature journaling to be a thing for people. And it's a wonderful thing. You carry a little book around with you, and you walk outside periodically. You can even do it with houseplants, but it's easier outside. And you observe what's going on, and maybe you'll make a little drawing, maybe you make a little note, something like that. And just the act of paying attention to the world and then writing it down can really make a difference, especially for kids.
So
You pretty much described my whole media career. Yes.
So let's stay on this track of thinking about health and wellness, because that's of course where we're going today. And before we jump into that main topic, I just wanted to bring this up. This is a report from the Financial Times that I found. It's from just a week ago. This is fascinating. A nurse who served during COVID-19 was having persistent traumatic flashbacks to what was going on. And this was over in Guy's and St. Thomas's hospitals in London. So she signed up for a pioneering therapy based on the game Tetris. And after a few weeks playing the game, which involves rotating variously shaped colored blocks so they fit together, the change was dramatic. She still remembered the COVID-era events, but no longer constantly relived them in a way that caused her acute distress. It was so effective. All those faces, all those noises, they are gone. And so this is part of a larger move to develop digital tools to treat mental health. And while I don't want for us to dig too deep into this one story, I did sort of want to raise this as a starting point for the larger discussion about health and technology. And we've already sort of mentioned a little bit. We talked about Apple Watch and at dinner tonight I was talking with my family about the Aura Ring. There are lots of tools that help us with our health or help us track our health. But for me, what I really wanted to focus on was, how is technology affecting our health? And it goes back to being outside in nature. It goes to using Tetris to help with our depression or our PTSD. And I know that, Paul, you have a few different pieces that you want to bring up. I'm going to throw it to Lois first, though, and then we can come over to you, Paul, because just your comments over Mukana. Go ahead, Lois. I'm sorry.
So the article that he's referring to had three therapies they talked about. One was the Tetris therapy. One was a cranial direct current stimulation. It's a electricity in your brain, very mild. And then the third one, which I thought was fascinating because it refers to what we talked about a few weeks ago, avatar therapy. And where we were talking about creating a non-human to interact with. So this is an avatar. And this is being used by people who hear voices, who have a particular mental situation where they're having voices telling them what to do. And they're the only one who can hear those voices. So with the therapist, the person gets an avatar. The avatar can be telling them what it is, and they can be responding to the avatar. It's a fascinating article. I encourage you to read it.
Wow. That's very, very interesting. This is from the Financial Times. It is behind a paywall, but for $1 you can get 4 weeks.
It's for free.
It's for free the first time you read it. If you go back, you have to, you have to pay for it. But it's just $1 for the first 4 weeks.
Just a little footnote on that. There is a therapist in our city who lets her schizophrenic clients have a dead cell phone. And anytime they're dealing with their visions, they talk on the phone. And everyone thinks they're talking to a person, but actually they're just talking to themselves. Yeah. But it's a therapy that she found works really well.
Fascinating. So let's talk a little bit about how technology impacts our health. By the way, I want to give a quick shout out to Ernesto, who's watching, and he has the Ring, he has got the Echo, he's got the doorbell, he's got all that stuff. So Ernesto, we're gonna need to hear from you about when the Apple stuff comes out. Thank you for being here watching. So how do you all think about we're all sort of technologists here. We all use technology a lot. Do you suffer from it? Does it affect your sleep? Does it
Yeah.
does it cause digital eye strain, musculoskeletal problems? I mean, there's so many different ways that it can impact us negatively. Paul, you had mentioned a couple of things that you had sort of suffered from around the COVID era.
Oh yeah, when COVID hit, I was a fitness instructor at UT, University of Texas, and yeah, I was just getting started. I was teaching aqua fitness in the pool at UT, and then we had the Nike training club, we had the Pilates, we had yoga, we had total body fitness. So we were going full blast. I was working out 8 hours a day, and COVID hit, everything just came to a halt. So COVID was a major disruptor of fitness. And that's when office hours started. We started sitting around and, talking to each other. And I tried to work out at home, but it's just not the same as being surrounded by a group of people all working together with a super energized, high energy instructor, And I've tried Apple Fitness, and they've got some pretty good instructors on there. And
So Paul,
it's just the motivation isn't the same.
Let me ask you a question, Paul. So, I mean, sounds like you were quite active. I'm quite the opposite of that. So for me, the transition from pre-COVID workout to post-COVID not workout was not really much of a transition at all. Actually, it was just kind of the same thing. But for you, as someone who was a fitness instructor, I mean, do you feel like you're less healthy today because you spend so much time on technology?
I think probably, yeah. I'm probably not as healthy, but I'm not ill or unhealthy, but I'm not as in prime condition as when I was doing Nike Training Club and Pilates and all those things today. I was going overboard on fitness before the plague came and descended upon us all.
Yeah.
I think
So one of the things, I was not a fitness instructor, but I was a fitness participant at the senior center 3 days a week. And then when COVID hit, we couldn't do that anymore. And our instructor is so good. She just turned and went to Zoom, and she has in her room a big panel with all of the little images up in there. So when we're doing our exercises together, each of us are at home, but she can see all of us. She can react to what the group is doing. She gives an instruction, and if some people are doing it wrong, well, she gives another cue so that we do it right. We get together a little bit before class starts, and we continue to chat with each other just like we did before. So the technology has been very helpful in that situation, in getting us to continue to exercise.
I think there's more to it, though, besides just exercising versus not exercising. The nature of work has changed, right? So I was going to work every day and driving for an hour and a half. Then I would park my car and I would walk however many steps, which was a significant amount. So I hit a lot of steps per day just doing regular things like going to the bathroom, going to the car, doing all of those kinds of things. Now I find where I'm working from home predominantly, instead of starting, my hours are from 10 to 7, but instead I'll come to my computer, I turn it on, I'll start working at 5 in the morning, and I'll go get my coffee. And I find that I'm at home much more than I was. So for sure, that has completely changed. Pre-COVID, I was getting up and going ice skating at 5 a.m. And that is not something that could switch to a digital space, right? So I haven't done that. That's drastically changed a lot of things about my health, but I've realized too in the last couple months where I have not been tied to my desk on things and I've been out in the world again. I was like, wow, just going shopping and going to the store and running errands completely changes the amount of exercise that a person gets. So I do think that technology has shifted things, but as technology has shifted work to be at home, then that's also shifted how we're able to do things in good ways and bad ways.
And
Let's talk about the benefits and the problems with technology and health, because there's some really strong things on both sides. I am weak now because I am not exercising. I'm even though I set an alarm to go off at 1:30, 2:30, 3:30, and I'm supposed to get up and walk around the house 3 times just to get my body moving. I'm not doing it. It doesn't happen. And so I'm getting weak. So that's a disadvantage of being on it. But
I'll give you
one of the-
another, Lois, I'll give you another
Yeah.
disadvantage that now, I don't know if this is the case, but I have a strong sense that it is. So in whether I'm at home or in my office, when I'm on Zoom, which is a good part of the day, I've got multiple screens in front of me and lights shining on me. And I have noticed that I'm getting a lot of headaches. And again, I don't, it could be a number of things, but it does seem new, and it does seem connected to the long hours that I'm spending either looking at screens or having lights shine on me, one of the two.
or sitting in a position in which your neck is getting kinked.
Right.
A lot of things can be ameliorated by getting good ergonomic chairs, by getting something that when you move, it moves,
Right. And
by
standing
getting
up. I have a sit-stand
Right.
desk. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's talk about some more of those drawbacks, because we've mentioned a couple, but there's also mental health issues. And to my mind, that's because people are not communicating with other people directly as human beings. They're using screen time so much.
I think it's that, and I think that those are being most profoundly affected. Excuse me, those being most profoundly affected by those issues are children. I work in a school, and again, this is this is not scientific data. This is just what I'm seeing day to day. But the children that we serve are different children than the ones that we served before COVID. And some of that is they missed out on a really important time playing or in school. Some of that is that COVID, we were already throwing our kids in front of tablets and phones and things like that. I think COVID did accelerate that. So I'm not really blaming COVID, but I do think that the technology that we have, I have families that they drop their kids off in the morning, and the kids come in watching, their screens are right in the car. They're watching TV in the cars. And then as soon as they get in the car to get picked up, they're right back on those screens. And
I think that extends all the way up, because I get kids in my theater and production company, and I'm seeing it with the young people coming in, where having a real conversation with real people is terrifying.
Yeah.
It's terrifying. And so there's a lot of, it's lack of experience. It's also not understanding why that's important. Like there's not a sense that that's an important thing to do. Even my nephew, who's like a pretty great kid, obviously I'm biased, but I was talking to him yesterday at Christmas, and he's like, I just hate being around people. I just want to be by myself. And I was like, I totally get that, because I kind of feel that way too. But also it is about really understanding how to have those interpersonal connections. And that is not happening. There's so many times you go into a restaurant. I've seen it in my own family, where everyone is in a room together on their cell phones, in their own space. So I do think that is taking a toll, and it's taking a toll, one, on not making personal connections, but also lacking the learning and skill how did we learn how to have conversations? We learned how to have conversations by being around other people who are having conversations. And that's missing, I think.
Yeah.
Another thing that is problematic is the games and the interaction that is addictive. Now, that's a strong word, addictive, but if you find that there's a little game on your phone that you like to play and you reach for it all the time, that's addictive behavior. It could be, doesn't have to be, but that's a problem.
I'm reading Adam Alter's official title, Irresistible, the rising addiction of technology in the business of keeping us hooked. And it is fascinating because it 100% goes through addiction and talks about, all the different kinds of addiction, how we become addicted. And I find myself constantly going, totally. I totally believe that. I'm not sure I want to solve that problem, which also makes me want to actively solve that problem.
So those are all the drawbacks, but what about the benefits? There's got to be some benefits to technology and health.
Well, Dave, you had mentioned you had put on the doc here about blood pressure, being able to take our blood pressure. I was amazed when I first got the watch and saw the little cardiac. What is that called? The
I knew that would happen to you.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I mean, but now blood pressure is much more difficult. Yes.
No, the blood pressure is quite easy, actually. And
So why don't we have
they
it
figured
yet?
out what,
We do.
well, you do have it. The latest Apple Watches do blood
Yep.
pressure. But
No,
it
they
was
do, but
diabetes.
they do.
That's
They
really
don't
hard.
do real time blood pressure. They do blood pressure over time. Like they look at. They don't do it in real. Like I can't. Not without a third party device, do they?
There's a phone app that allows you to check your blood pressure.
Mhm. But there's a lot of other features that for me, the positive side of all of this is a level of awareness. We used to have campaigns here in Canada to get people moving. It was called participation. Embarrassed to say that. And their ads included, a Canadian that's 25 and a 60-year-old Swede, and what the two of them could do. And the Canadian always failed because the Swede was more in shape. Well, it tried to raise awareness. Nothing raised awareness more than when the Apple Watch started saying, stand up.
Right.
The Apple Watch gave you rings and challenges, and then you got your friends. And then I was in Paris with my in-laws, and we were touring. And at the end of the tour, we're sitting in the hotel, and she turns to me and says, how many steps did you get? And I'm going, I'm not counting steps. I mean, yeah, we were out all day, but she goes, no, check your phone. And she showed me where it was and all that. And I'm going, oh, look at that, 15,000 steps. And all we did was go underground. But that was the first time I ever actually thought, oh, you can count steps. Great. Now, I'd heard of Fitbit and I'd heard of all the other tech. But I worked about 3 years with the Alberta government in children's services. And we had a team of people that went around during lunchtime to make people get out of their desk and do something. And they got rewards, like they had a goodie bag, and if you went and did something and came back, there'd be a goodie here for you. And I was exempt because I was a contractor, so they didn't care about me. But at the same time, I really appreciated this gang of people whose job it is at lunchtime to run around and get people excited about getting out and doing something and not eating at their desk. Tomber, you're right. The whole world of work is now in our heads. It's not in our hands. And the more you do hand stuff, the better it is, or feet stuff. The other thing that I wanted to mention is how proud I was of my own community, my little neighborhood here. When COVID hit, one of the first texts I got was, how can we help? And they wanted to address, and I've got real experts in the neighborhood on this, mental health that they expected to be a problem from people who are compelled to stay home and not meet with people. They knew what the effects would be. What can we do? And they got volunteers together to do errands with people and take them places. They also arranged for outside meetups. They got things going in the neighborhood that would just be walks. And like I say, in nature, we have the advantage. Why aren't we using it? And more people showed up for that than any of our fun events, because they all wanted to do something about this. And I was like, that's how you keep your mental health, is you help other people all the time. And my exercise comes from doing all this stuff with my neighbors. And it's hard work sometimes, but it's kept me in shape.
I also
I
think
think a lot of it is being really conscientious about and being intentional, because the truth is, I have thrived, and I've said this in the past. I thrived in COVID. I really got to connect with people who I felt very isolated. I was in New York and then happened to get on a show in Los Angeles and came back to LA. And even though my family was here, I was really isolated from all of my communities. And it completely reconnected me and charged me in whole new ways and, taught me new things. And so I'm super grateful for it in ways that I know other people aren't. But I also recognize that there are issues with it, because even the Fitbit, or your Apple Watch, which I love my Apple Watch, they that kind of
Are you allowed to say that in public, that you're in love with your watch?
I am, because I think people will expect it. I came to the Apple Watch so late, and the first time that it called and I answered it like this, I was like, 10-year-old Tamara. I have the Apple Watch 9. That is how late to the game I came to it. And now I'm like, I won't.
Beam me up.
I was like, Inspector Gadget Tamara is so excited right now. But I do think I have to be intentional. So like certain things I have to take off of my phone. I don't have Facebook on my phone anymore. And at first I was like twitchy. And now I've not only, I can still get to it, it's on my computer. I don't get to it as often. It has changed my algorithm in a really positive way, because instead of feeding me all of the things that I was checking and, that were giving me anxiety, it's feeding me a bunch of general junk. So it takes me 5 minutes to go through it because I'm not interacting with it enough. And I have to really be intentional about it. I really have to say, I'm going to get up, I'm going to walk. I'm really thinking through a lot of those hurdles, because I do love technology, and it has given me so many positive things that I'm not going to just cut it out. Like that's not realistic. And all of the books are saying, well, you've got to do this and you've got to do that. But I also found that there are certain things, like when I write and when I do my planning and my journaling, I do that 100% by hand first. And I have been using digital script writing programs for years. So I've been doing this for a long time, when they were still, super old and blocky and DOS-like. But I find that I do much better if I'm thinking with a pen first, and then the technology part goes faster. So I do think we have to be intentional about it.
We've all been talking about individual data that you're getting from your individual watches. But cumulatively, that means that there's a lot of research which can be done now that couldn't have been done before, because now this individual data can be combined.
It's aggregated together. That's what's so exciting, Lois. You're right.
But there's one more, and one more real benefit, especially when we were all staying home. And that is, I can now communicate with my doctors, with the cardiologist, my general practitioner, with, whatever. And they have a portal, so I can log on. I can look at the lab tests. I can write messages. I can say, okay, you want me to change from this medicine to this medicine. Well, what are the side effects? And then pharmacists will call me. I mean, this is just, it is giving me so much more ease, because I can communicate so much easier with my medical people. And it also means that people who have accessibility issues can also connect and get help.
And I had said this early on in our group chat. My mom was in a very bad car accident in October, and she was hit by a semi-truck into a freeway wall. We found out about it because we're a contact in her health app, and it sent a message that says, iPhone has detected a crash and we have notified 911. Emergency services. And when I saw it, I remembered that this technology existed, and I thought, oh, that's kind of creepy. When I saw it, I didn't know what it was, but it gives you the exact coordinates. Every time they moved her, it gave the exact coordinates. By the time she reached the hospital, I had already called an Uber and traveled to the hospital. Like, I used technology through the entire way. And every
That's
single
amazing.
step of the way. I was able to look at her portal and see what
Wow.
was happening. And I thought about that because I live in California. And if you live in Southern California, you're going to be in a car accident at some point or have had people in car accidents. And I thought about how quickly my brother, who she was on her way to my brother's church, he was like on the freeway within minutes at the site. And the way it used to be is that you would find out hours later that someone was in an accident. And she's doing fantastic, so fast forward. But every step of the way, I've realized how technology in health has been absolutely, completely different than it's ever been.
I thank you for bringing that up. That's so important. And Lois, what you shared about access is really important. Also, I want to just play devil's advocate for a moment because I had a terrible experience with. I'm not going to name the provider, but I was looking for a therapist, and very few therapists, at least in my part of the world now, are doing on-site, in-person visits. They all want to do telemedicine, and so I started with someone, and maybe blame it on office hours. I'm not sure, but the gentleman was not looking at me. He clearly did not have any of the tech to do this well. He was not looking at me. It looked to me like he was busy doing something else. I don't know if he was or if he wasn't, but
he's whittling a bird while listening to you.
Maybe. Here was my takeaway was that technology is vital for access, and for keeping us connected. And at the same time, I think that technology can also make us a little lazy. I think that the gentleman that I was seeing was being lazy. He was not doing his job well. And technology was allowing him to do it more poorly than he would have had to if I were sitting face to face in his office. So I don't know what the takeaway from that is, other than maybe it's Spider-Man's uncle, with great power comes great responsibility. With great technology comes great, responsibility. But we have to be thoughtful about the ways that we use this technology, even when it's, making sure that we can access the vital care that we need. Because if that care
And the ways
isn't
we show
good
up.
care, right? If that care isn't good care, if we don't show up the way we need to show up, I still, a member of my family sees a doctor through telehealth. We end up waiting. We log on. We end up waiting there for an hour until this, we've got.
Gee, it didn't solve that problem, did it?
No,
Yeah.
but it can though. All the time. If I'm on the phone with the bank or something, they say, hey, there's a 35-minute wait, but we can call you back when we're ready.
Now, I've had telehealth that did not come through my insurance. We had this extra thing that my company out of Austin used called Fresh Bennies. And I could not get an actual doctor or a telehealth doctor from my insurance that I paid for in my area. I literally could not find anybody. I called them. They would give me someone who was like an hour and a half away. So last year I got COVID and I was like, I really need to get medication. I'm like, well, I have this free service. Let me try it. They said, we'll call you in 10 minutes. They called me in 10 minutes. They had the prescription written. It had it delivered to my, my pharmacist. I was shocked. But my healthcare provider, I couldn't get that from them.
Well,
So yes, it is possible.
Some are good and some are bad.
It is possible. It just isn't always there.
And to be honest, I've never had to wait as long for the doctor visit as I've had to wait when I go in and sit in the waiting room and they're behind. So I end up sitting there for an hour. So I have a feeling that it's the doctors, it's the companies, it's not whether or not they're using technology.
No, you're absolutely right.
But what they need are those restaurant buzzers. You see, the restaurant buzzer.
The beepers.
I could go out and walk up and down the shopping center or go and take care of some post office stuff. And when it buzzes, I'll turn around and go to the doctor's
But
office.
here's what I was trying to get at, Lois, is that let me just make an analogy, which may not make sense at first, but in the faith world, and I'll just speak for the Jewish, for synagogues and temples, when we like everyone, when we first went online, we literally put cameras up and did the same exact thing in front of cameras. And you know what? That was fine. We did the best that we could. Now that we're 2, 3, 4, 5 years in, and we know that that isn't the best that we can do, we know that a digital experience has to be different, and that doing the same thing that we do in our churches or synagogues doesn't translate to a digital space. Now that we know that, we also know that we need to do better. And my fear is that as technology comes into healthcare, that doctors who are used to having us wait in the waiting room for 45 minutes, an hour, think that that will somehow translate into digital space. And it can't. It can't. We must be able to do this work better and more efficiently. I was meeting with someone, I just finished teaching a class on digital innovations for rabbinical students. And this one of my students just did his final project. And he was telling me, it was amazing what he was doing, how he was using Google Notebook LM to create a pre-sermon little thing that he could then pop into some video generator and make it this little thing that he would send out. And like, he was doing all this amazing work. And I asked him, I said, do you feel like these tools are saving you time or expending more of your time? Because it seemed to me that he was doing so much more work. And to my mind, one of the perks of technology is that they should save you. They should make your work more efficient. If we can't,
it could be efficient or it could be better.
well, I think it could be both. And I think that's, again, I think that's the magic of technology, is that, you know,
Fast, cheaper, better. Yeah.
right. Is that we can be wearing something on our wrist or on our finger, and we can immediately get our, not yet, but our blood pressure or our pulse ox or our this or that. And it's cheaper, it's faster, and it's more efficient. And it's better, I would argue. But those lessons are not, they're not ubiquitous across the field. And I want to make sure, like I have any say in this. I hope that as more technology is adopted into I'm not talking, by the way, about the back end. I'm not talking about the robot assisted surgeries. I'm not talking about AI reading scans. That happens out of view. I'm talking about you and I, the way that we are impacted by this stuff. If I'm still having to wait on a Zoom for an hour, we're not doing it right.
Well, I think you bring up something interesting too, because we're of a generation where we saw so many, technology was continually changing every quarter for us. And so we were adjusting and adapting. And you see it in our community where, you know, we want to know how to do something and we just open it up. We break it until we figure it out. And that is not the generation that is coming up. They have had one technology. They have had the iPhone, which 70% of them are using. So so our expectations of what technology can and should do are very different. And technology has often not saved us time. Email was going to save us time. It did save us time. Instead of, you used to put in a claim in the insurance company, you would pick up the phone, you would call it in, the person would take that, they would do their part. They would send it to the main corporation. It would come back. There was actually time and space to do your work. Now, with emails, things are happening so quickly that we've actually not gotten less work on our plate. We actually have more work on our plate. So I think that's one of the dichotomies of technology and how it should make us faster and more efficient. Right. And in fact, just piles more things on because we're now able to do things faster.
Right. It came around to save us time and to give us more time with our families and to improve our mental health. And in some ways, not all, but in some ways, in some cases, it has done the exact opposite. Sorry, Lois,
but it is this younger generation that's coming in and saying, I am out at 5 o'clock. Do not talk to me until 10 a.m. tomorrow. Like, they are setting boundaries that we have never been able to set. And so in a way, their reliance on technology is not like our reliance on technology.
And by the way, those boundaries, I mean, that's, if we're looking for takeaways from today about what do we do about this, you know, how do we make the most of it? Being able to set those boundaries is so important. Lois, I keep stepping all over you. I'm sorry.
So so far what we've been talking about is individual things, either the consumer, the patient, or the provider, how are they doing? What technology are they using? The company, good or bad. And all of that is individual. All of that is, it depends. It depends on who you are, what you're doing. All right. But how can we as a society maximize the technology's health benefits and mitigate the negative benefits? So let's broaden this out to more of a societal thing. I'm not sure there is a thing that we can broadly do. I think it's going to be individual, but maybe it's not. What do y'all think?
I think it comes down to a lot of the things we always talk about, which is really having more education on, and not just the technology, but also on how intentional we need to be in it. Because for a lot of us, like, it's easy to say we should set boundaries, but my generation doesn't set boundaries. I do not know how to tell you, like, I'm learning that now. I did not grow up learning that. I grew up learning you go to work early, you stay late, you're constantly in motion, you're constantly innovating and looking for the next thing. And so when I work with people now and they're like, yep, going to lunch, I'm like, I don't even know what a lunch break is. I don't know what that means. Like, I asked
I just
ChatGPT.
had that thought today. I don't understand when people walk out of the office to take lunch. I don't get that.
So I worked with a coach for, to set up kind of my next career path, whatever that looks like. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I don't know how to take a lunch break. I don't know what to do. When I took up ice skating, it's because I didn't know what to do. And I was at NBC and my boss left and they're like, you're going to have to start taking a lunch break now. And I was like, oh, I don't know what that means. I literally went ice skating for lunch. That's how I became an ice skater as an adult. For now, I was like, I don't know what to do at lunch. She goes, well, make a list. And I literally went to ChatGPT. I said, give me 100 things I could do on a lunch break because I wasn't even sure how to do that task.
Tamara, eat lunch. That's what you put a lunch break.
I've never not eaten lunch. It's at my desk or it's at a lunch meeting. So I've never been able to do that. I've had to be very, very specific as a grown-up how to really plan out those things. And I think that's going to be where we have 4 different generations in the workforce right now, and they all come at things completely differently. And so part of it is, as we're talking about how technology is helpful and how it's not helpful, we really have to be thinking about having direct instruction and what does that look like? And for some generations, it's how do you take a lunch break? How do you walk out of the office? And for other generations, it's how do you walk into the office, right? It's how do you interact with people in person versus on screen? So I think that societally, we have to kind of be really cognizant that it is not great for everybody all the time, including me, who technology is great for, right?
I also think societally, having access to all of these trackers and all of these sensors has made us much more acutely aware of our health. May not always do something about it, but the fact that, as you said, Lois, that, my watch tells me every whatever hour that it's time to stand up, or, my watch alerts me when I seem to have an irregular heartbeat or whatever it's doing. Or simply that I can track my weight and my exercise using any of these fitness trackers. But
that can be addictive and unhealthy as well. And I think that was one of the things the book brought up that I was reading, The Irresistible, is that health people do not want you to have a tracker. They want you to be in tune with your body and to learn how to feel, and that the trackers themselves can be highly addictive and highly detrimental. So that's where it's like, this is a real balance that we have to kind of figure out. And I do think it is individual.
How many people are actually having one of those things? I mean, I have an iPhone, but I don't use it to measure my steps.
Right.
And yet it's measuring your steps even when you don't use it to do
that. You have to turn on the program in order for that to
allow it to do that tracking, yes.
But you're right.
It's true. Might just have to. One of the things I had as an experience with some subordinates was they confessed to me one day they didn't know how to talk to girls and they didn't know how to meet them. And our office was on the 2nd floor across from a college. And they had a great cafeteria, public cafeteria. And I took him to the window, I looked out and I said, you see, it's lunchtime now. And look at all those girls. And yeah, but well, no, just go have lunch there. You don't have to try and talk to anybody. Just go become a presence in the room, eat your lunch, and then leave, and do that for the next month or two. And those people will see that you're a regular here, and that the service people know you, and other people, they might start greeting you. Hi, how you doing? And pretty soon they're talking to you. And then they find out you don't even go to school here. You're just here for lunch. And then you're safe. They'll talk to you all day long. And I thought this guy didn't know what to do. He was like 28, I think, and he didn't know what to do. And I thought, wow, that generation's got problems.
Well,
but I think that's a lot to do with, that's what's happening with kids too. Like I work with high school kids, and they'll say, I don't know how to make friends. So when we're seeing that technology is the cause of all of these disparate things, I actually think that that may be the underlying cause, but that it's also taken away the ability to learn how to do interpersonal communication. And it's the lack of interpersonal communication that is causing the depression, not necessarily.
I'm not so sure.
It's been that way.
Yeah,
it's been that way for 70
I
years.
agree, Lois. I agree. I think we're too easy to blame technology. Yeah. Paul, did you want to jump in? I think I stepped on you before.
Yeah, I wanted to mention one tool that really helps a lot. It's called Exist. It's called exist.io. And if you go there, you can link up your Apple Watch or your Android Watch, or they cover every device. And it gives you such incredible data on your fitness. It's amazing.
This is
amazing,
wild. Look at
service.
this.
Yeah, it's just, I use it all the time.
Steps, productive time, time asleep, whoa.
It integrates literally with every single device and app that is out there, and it brings them all to one central place.
This is fascinating.
That's
now,
cool.
I could get lost in this.
Look at all the things they're showing there. Aura and Strava, that's for bicyclists, and
wow, this is
even
fascinating.
integrates all your music stuff as well. It shows you what music you've listened to when you're working out, and does a lot of comparison and analysis. Tells you, well, last year you had this many steps, and today you had this many. It's just, and it's not very expensive. I think it's like $10 a month.
Yeah, $7 a month.
Or
first 30
$7
days
a
are
month. There you
free. Wow. I mean, I would try. I hate having to put a credit card in. That's the
I
only
hate,
thing
I
don't.
hate
I don't
apps.
like.
I hate subscriptions, but
Yeah.
this is the one that I find worthwhile.
No, this is fascinating. Wow, thank you. What a great. I should have prepped you all and said, hey, come with a great.
It should have been in the news roundup
health
there.
app
Yeah.
or something. Yeah, this is fantastic. This is great. Good find. Nicely done. All right, friends. It is 10:15.
It's time to get up and walk around.
It's time to get up and walk around. Time to get up and walk around. I'm so grateful to all of you. Again, next week it's going to be January 2nd, right? So we'll be in a new year. I don't know.
We'll be in a new year. You won't, will you?
Oh, sure I will. Sure.
I thought the Jewish year didn't end at January.
2025. It's a year. What are you gonna? It's a.
Hey, the
new year.
Ukrainians' New Year is
Right,
January 6th, so we get 2 of them.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, nice.
I don't know. Maybe we'll do something around technology and New Year's resolutions. I'm not exactly sure how those two fit together. But
Or how the dates and the times and the changes of that thing have
do you
affected
remember?
us?
Do you remember Y2K?
Oh yeah.
Like I know exactly where you're
When
going.
we thought the world was going to end. Oh my!
Did you
goodness.
think that though?
I wasn't
I didn't think
convinced.
the world
No.
was going to end. I thought Windows was going to crash.
Right.
That's what I thought.
Oh my!
And for some people, that's their whole business. So yeah,
it was.
That was crazy.
Special
maybe we should
meetings.
just do a Y2K retrospective and see if any
Retrospective
kind
on
of threat
Y2K.
Do a tech retrospective.
exists today. Are there? We talk about him breaking ChatGPT at the start of the show here.
All right,
I
let's
mean,
get-
what other catastrophe could happen in technology.
AI.
Oh,
I mean,
let's not.
we have the solar winds. We
Let's
have
not contribute to
Let's
giving
check.
people good ideas.
ChatGPT is mostly recovered, and we're continuing to work on an overall fix. This is, I tell you something. This is, it says operational now. It was kind of up and working for me earlier today, but this is a huge outage. This is started at 11 a.m. And they were late to the game actually. 11 a.m. PST, because it really started around 1:30. Wow, unbelievable. All right, enough complaining about ChatGPT. If it was my fault, I apologize, but I do not apologize for these amazing friends and for all the beauty that you all bring into my world every Thursday. I'm so grateful for each and every one of you, Lois and Dave and Paul and Tamara. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being you. If you want to join
See
our
you
panel
next year.
if you want to join our panel, just pop me a message over on Discord or just visit therundown.show. You can access our Discord there. You can watch us on YouTube. If you have questions, if you want to be on the panel, anything at all, it's all possible. I want to wish each and every one of you a happy, happy New Year. We'll see you soon.